keeper's foot.
The only place he's trapped by is his foot. If we try and put some traction on this, it's going to hurt.
Paramedic Daz meets a patient who's apparently a stranger to pain. And there's a miracle escape for a trucker thrown through his windscreen without a scratch. It doesn't matter how safe your car is or how quickly these guys arrive, how you come out of a car smash is entirely a matter of luck. On a country road in North Yorkshire, there's been a serious accident. Several people are trapped in the wreckage, and this is a long way from the nearest trauma unit.
It's a serious RTA at Brompton-on-Swale near Richmond.
Just next to Catterick Racers.
The crew of Helimed 99 are being scrambled from their base at Leeds Bradford Airport. Pilot Steve Cobb, paramedic Darren Axe and flying doctor Andy Pountney are a highly skilled team. By air, it should take them 20 minutes to get to the scene. But this case is so serious, dispatcher Dave Gardner's also sending Helimed 98 from Sheffield, 30 miles further south.
99 is already en route. There's 3 patients, it's a bad entrapment, so I want to get you started on it just in case it really is bad.
This is the first time that both Yorkshire Air Ambulances have been sent to the same incident. But 2 helicopters heading to the same scene isn't without risks.
Yes, before you get to the incident first, then we can check out the landing site for the second aircraft, and we have communications with them as well with a handheld radio, so we can talk to them on the way in and let them know, give them an update on the way in.
From their base in South Yorkshire, it's going to take the crew of Helimed 98 at least half an hour to catch up. They need to hurry, because the latest news from the accident scene isn't good.
One female has come from the back seat and gone into the front. She's trapped in the footwell. There's a male trapped in the footwell as well. Airbag's gone off, and it looks like the driver, they're querying spinal injuries on the scene.
I'm en route to a bad job at this. You're trying to work out what your priority is going to be when you land. Obviously the first priority is getting yourself there safely, and then just kind of making an assessment of the scene, and really your first job is going to be just to do a recce and an overview of the scene, try and work out exactly what casualties you've got, what resources you've got on the scene.
Helimed 99 is almost there. Flying Dr Andy Pountney is an experienced trauma specialist, but with 3 patients, he knows he'll have his work cut out.
Got 1, 2, 3, 4 casualties.
Yep.
Okay. This guy's been in this car. He's got a pulse rate of 77. He's a bit shut down peripherally. He's got abdominal pain and guarding.
Hello. Alright, my name's Andy, one of the doctors.
The fire service have taken one of the cars apart to allow the paramedics to treat the patients. The police investigation has already started.
I cannot bend my elbow, my left elbow.
No, I don't want you to move it, just keep it still for me.
The driver of one of the cars is trapped behind the wheel. He's got multiple fractures and he's in pain, but he's hiding it well.
Here we've got a number of patients. Andy's dealing with the first patient that may have an abdominal bleed. We've got another guy that's got multiple fractures, but the lady on the other side of the car now is not looking too well as well, so we're going to get at it as quick as we can.
Mate, there's morphine 10 in 10 there.
Yep.
If you want to give that to the guy,
morphine 10 in 10.
I'll just check the guy on the other side.
As the team struggle to cope on the scene, Helimed 98 is still speeding north.
Just to the left of Catterick Garrison, I think it is.
Yeah, I've got it, man.
Yeah, okay.
But they're still a long way off. Back on the ground, the driver of the black car has the most serious injuries, and Dr Andy Pountney is worried.
His main complaint is pain in his abdomen, but he's also got quite a lot of pain in his pelvis, and he's got quite a low blood pressure, so we're concerned that he's got some intra-abdominal bleeding, but also that his pelvis may be broken. So there's not a lot we can do for any bleeding inside the abdomen out here. He needs to be in hospital.
2 other victims of the crash will go to hospital by road, but the 2 drivers need more specialist care.
Hang on one sec, guys. What we're going to do now is we're going to move down and across to the middle in one movement, about 6 inches.
This is a remote part of North Yorkshire, and the nearest intensive care unit is at least 25 minutes away by road. And there's only 1 helicopter.
His pain's gone up now to about a 7, even after the 10 morph that we've given him.
Dr Andy and paramedic Daz need reinforcements. Quickly. Coming up, one man's in agony, the other's critically injured. Helimed 98 is badly needed. Now.
There's not a lot we can do for any bleeding inside the abdomen out here. He needs to be in hospital.
Adding insult to injury, the victim of a forklift truck accident gets a lift.
You need to sort of use anything that you can that'll assist you, really.
And Helimed 99 is scrambled to a school bus crash. For thousands of people, the moors of Yorkshire are a playground, and shooting is still a big hobby up here. I wouldn't fancy being one of these. The poor old grouse is too tasty for its own good, and hundreds of gamekeepers spend all year making sure the moors are an ideal habitat for them by burning the heather to make sure there's plenty of green shoots for them to eat. It's usually the grouse who need help around here, but today the air ambulance is about to be scrambled because one of the gamekeepers is the casualty.
Do you want to set off on it?
On one of the most exclusive grouse moors in the Yorkshire Dales, a young keeper has been trapped under his overturned all-terrain vehicle. He could have serious crush injuries, and the crew know a ground ambulance won't be able to get anywhere near him. This is a job for Helimed 98. Pilot Steve Cobb and paramedic Sammy Wills are both experienced aircrew, but they know that finding one man in such a huge expanse of moorland is going to be very difficult. They also know their patient's survival could depend on how fast they can find him.
We're trying to guess, is it a tractor, a trailer type tanker, or is it like a fuel tanker? And the person that's made the calls had to leave the patient just to get a signal to make the emergency call, so it's a little unknown at this time.
You can see the physical injuries like broken legs, broken arms and blood, but also you've got to be wary of if they've caused internal injuries to the body.
As Helimed 98 races over the Dales, the paramedics' fears are realised. There are numerous farm vehicles and walkers scattered across the moors, but there's no sign of the gamekeeper.
It looks like the shooting lodge. I suggest we followed the floor before.
Yeah. Where's he gone to?
There's definitely isn't. There's all the shooting things there.
Yeah, they said near the shooting lodge, didn't they? So let's follow
house,
him.
yeah.
Shooting house, yeah.
We're just trying to track down where this patient is, and we're doing a best guess and following something that's moving.
It's that green thing. You see where they are? You go up the hill. There's a green thing near the wall.
Yeah, there you go. Big wave. 11 o'clock.
We've got it.
Yeah, and it is something that's rolled over.
Yeah, well done.
I would never have got an ambulance up here.
They've finally found their patient, and it doesn't look good. The gamekeeper's been trapped for more than an hour. He only managed to attract help by firing his shotgun in the air. Pilot Steve decides to get closer to the scene. The patient's colleagues are desperately trying to secure the ATV to stop it crushing him further. But in the chaos, a quad bike almost pushes the ATV over, putting paramedic Pat's life in danger too.
What I don't want to do is move it and have it come back again. All right. Yeah, I know.
The man's been trapped for over an hour. Pat needs to act fast. The blood supply to his trapped legs has been cut off, and if they're not released soon, they might need to be amputated. But this might be the least of his worries.
Does it want to go over top of that wheel?
The ATV is resting precariously and could fall at any moment, and Pat's just spotted another hazard. It was full of gas canisters, cans of petrol, and shotgun cartridges. They're all flammable, explosive, and scattered around the patient. This is a very hazardous situation, and Pat needs to get his patient out before it gets worse.
Hang on, mate, just a minute. Just give us a couple of minutes, mate. No, what's happened? He's rolled over. The only place he's trapped by is his foot. What I'm going to do, he's going to take the weight, but not pull it all the way over. Take the weight, and we'll just drag him out.
One slip and the gamekeeper could be crushed under the full weight of the vehicle. Normally, they'd call in the fire brigade, but they're miles from the nearest road. Coming up, he's survived shotgun cartridges, gas cylinders, and an upturned vehicle, but have they saved his foot?
Take the weight, and we'll just drag him out.
2 drivers get twice the treatment in half the time, as the entire air ambulance fleet is scrambled to one crash. And why paramedic Sammy thinks she's in more danger here than in the air.
When you're driving, effectively, you're in control of a missile.
The flying paramedics rarely go anywhere without their rucksacks, and they dispense painkilling drugs almost every day. But sometimes they come across a patient who's a little tougher than the rest. Helimed 98's getting the same treatment as a Royal flight this morning. It's rush hour at Leeds Bradford Airport, but air traffic control makes sure everything gives way to Yorkshire's flying medics. They're on their way to a farmer's warehouse where a lorry driver's been injured in an accident involving a forklift truck.
My foot is likely to flop off.
You think it is, or are you sure it is?
I'm sure it is, because when I got up it was right round.
Right.
John Dinsdale's amazingly calm for a man whose ankle is so badly broken, he thinks it's almost severed.
Don't move. I want to be able to have a look.
It feels all as though it's all broke off in there.
Right.
And it was all over there.
There's no blood, which is a good thing.
Right.
If it's broken but it's closed,
right,
that helps us.
Good.
So we're going to have to put a splint on this to stop it moving.
Get it put on and...
Right, but this boat's got to come off.
Most patients require an armful of painkillers before they can bear to have a boot removed from a broken leg. John seems virtually immune to pain.
Yeah, right.
I go.
Yeah, I've got it. You got it?
Yeah, we've got it. We don't let it drop. We only drop people on Thursdays.
Especially the 13th.
Keep still. I'll not get the toes.
Yeah, my best socks.
Oh, they were.
John was picking up a load when he was involved in a nasty accident.
He ran over with forklift.
Yeah, can we get in here?
If we try and put some traction on this, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, go on.
You want us to?
Yeah, go on.
John's leg is broken in 5 places. It's no ordinary break.
You do what you want.
It's going to be painful.
Go on, you do what you want.
Paramedics Daz and Pete know most people would be screaming in agony if they tried this without morphine.
You alright?
We're alright, you don't have to... It should be all the way around, you know, we should be asking you if you're alright.
I've just put 14 stone 10 of beef at the back of that and it's still, and you still didn't shout.
Their patient's resistance to pain is amazing. Paramedics Pete and Daz.
He's got quite a nasty lower leg fracture, probably involving his ankle. He's obviously in some pain, but you know he's tolerating it quite well. If that had been me, I'd have been screaming my head off.
We've got access now in case his pain gets any worse. We're going to transfer him through to LGI where they'll have an x-ray of that leg and find out exactly what damage is done in there.
Last year, 14 people were killed and nearly 2,000 were injured by forklift trucks in the UK. John's just become another statistic for the transport industry. But the vehicle that he blames for his broken leg is about to come in very useful for Helimed 98's crew.
What we're going to do now is going to sit this onto a forklift.
Right. Yeah.
So who's best driver? And I don't want the same bloke that...
Oh, David, he's right. Alan, he'll be ready. Go on, let him put it.
It's alright, mate. He's not
calm his nerves.
It's going to be alright, don't worry.
Someone else will have to drive John's articulated lorry back to North Yorkshire. He's going to be a passenger for a while.
Any type of vehicle that we can get at which will assist us in transferring a patient from the accident back to the aircraft, we're going to use that. Because, chances of slipping, stumbling or falling when you've got a patient on, especially in an industrial environment, this is quite clean and clear. You need to sort of use anything that you can that'll assist you really.
Within 5 minutes of leaving the scene of his accident, John's touching down at Leeds General Infirmary, where surgeons will operate on his shattered leg.
All best, John.
It's been just another day at work for the crew of Helimed 98. But for their patient, this is the start of a 6-month ordeal. Not only did John go on to contract MRSA after surgery, he returned home to a caravan that he's been camping in while renovating a new home single-handed.
The ankle is just mush.
So they put a plate in and hopefully the bone's going to go back through it. But at present it's all screwed together sort of solid, if you follow what I mean. Well, as you can see, there's loads of things to do, like, and just hobbling about on one leg, as you might say.
And the renovation of John's country cottage is on hold until he can get back up his ladders. It's going to be a long wait. Coming up, a dangerous rescue as the crew fight to save a trapped patient's foot.
You're going to take the weight but not pull it all the way over.
And the paramedics treat a trucker who became a human cannonball and lived.
Air ambulances don't have blue lights and two-tones, but they do get top priority from the air traffic controllers who police the skies. And sometimes they need it.
There's been a major accident on a road in North Yorkshire. One man's trapped with multiple fractures and another driver has bad abdominal injuries.
You want to tighten this collar in?
Flying Dr. Andy Pountney and paramedic Darren Axe are already at the scene, and they're fighting to stabilise both men in difficult conditions.
Not a lot we can do for any bleeding inside the abdomen out here. It needs to be in hospital.
More help is on the way. The accident is so serious that the second Yorkshire Air Ambulance helicopter has been called in to back them up. But HeliMed 98 will be some time. It's set off from its base in Sheffield, half an hour away. And paramedics Pete Vallance and Lee Davidson can't fly any faster.
Yeah, we're still on en route to North Yorkshire to back up HeliMed 99 and the ground crews. I think this will be a first for the Yorkshire Air Ambulance, having two aircraft on the ground at the same time, same incident.
On the ground, Pete's skills are badly needed.
How's your pain doing? It's what, sorry?
Very painful.
Okay.
The injured motorist is ready to be airlifted to hospital. But for now, Dr. Andy is on his own. Paramedic Darren has to stay with the other driver until the second air ambulance arrives.
Can you squeeze my fingers with that hand? That's great. Just relax again now, mate.
While Darren stays behind, Andy and a team of firefighters carry HeliMed 99's patient to the helicopter. And as he's loaded on board, there's a very welcoming sound from above. HeliMed 98 has arrived in the nick of time.
Andy Pountney's on there, so we've obviously got one loaded. And we're down. Okay, to go, mate.
For pilots Steve Cobb and Tim Taylor, this is a big event. It's the first time both Yorkshire Air Ambulances have been on the ground at the same incident. But the medical team have more on their minds. For 20 minutes, paramedic Darren has been looking after trapped driver Mark James. Now Pete is finally able to take over.
Mark, this is Pete. My mate is going to look after you. All right, the rest of these lads. See you later, buddy. See you, lads.
Cheers, mate.
It's good timing. Darren's needed at the helicopter. Dr. Andy's patient has more serious injuries and will be flown to hospital first.
The gentleman that we've been looking at has got his multiple fractures, obviously, from this collision, which has been quite a nasty impact. We've been fortunate enough to have a couple of doctors on scene, one a basics doctor in a car, and then obviously Andy.
HeliMed 99's loaded one patient up already, so they'll be departing shortly and we're ready to take up after them. So it's working out a treat.
But this isn't over yet. James is still trapped with multiple broken bones, and paramedic Pete has to get him out of his wrecked car.
Did you say what we were going to do with it to get you out? Put this board underneath and there's plenty of hands round to handle you out.
This has been a high-speed impact. Both cars are badly damaged. Seatbelts and airbags have kept the drivers alive, but the team know they have to move fast. HeliMed 99 was the first helicopter on the scene, and it's the first to take to the air. Flying Dr. Andy Pountney knows his patient is in a bad way. He must carefully monitor his condition in the noise and vibration of a helicopter heading for hospital at maximum speed.
The main concern for this gentleman, he's got quite a lot of pain in his upper abdomen, so obviously we've got to worry about the bleeding inside there from liver, spleen, organs like that. But also he's very tender around the pelvis. With both of those injuries, you can lose an awful lot of blood both into the abdomen and into the pelvis. So the problem is that you lose your blood pressure and you become shocked. For these injuries, what he potentially needs is surgery to stop the bleeding, and obviously we can't do that out of hospital, and that makes it a life-threatening injury.
Coming up, can surgeons win the battle to save Helimed 99's patient?
Bleeds to the abdomen, really life-threatening.
And how long before the other driver is freed? A taxi driver crashes his cab.
Okay, listen to me, we're going to slide you in. Come on, then, let me go. Relax.
Now he needs a ride with Helimed 99.
When the air ambulance touches down, the pilot has to look out for the safety of his crew and their patient, but sometimes saving lives means taking a carefully calculated risk. Helimed 98 is in the Yorkshire Dales helping a gamekeeper who's been trapped under his all-terrain vehicle for over an hour. Paramedic Pat is first on the scene and is faced with a dilemma.
What I'm going to do, you're going to take the weight but not pull it all the way over. Take the weight and we'll just drag him out.
Trapped limbs need to be released slowly to prevent cardiac arrest. But paramedic Pat's patient is surrounded by gas canisters, petrol and shotgun cartridges. He decides the risk of leaving the man under the vehicle any longer is too great. The fire brigade are too far away to help. The paramedics and the keeper's colleagues are the only ones who can rescue him.
Right, pull up. Pull him. Pull him.
Within seconds it's all over and he's out.
You're not supposed to be face down, mate.
But Pat and Sammy Wills know he could still be in a serious condition.
Mate, just stay there for us.
Crush injuries can lead to lethal complications.
Yellow.
Yeah, okay. There was no way the fire brigade could have got any of their kit up onto that moor, so it was a matter of getting him out as quickly as can by the best possible means. When we did eventually get his boot off, we found that the tops of his toes were starting to go blue, which is an indication that he's getting limited oxygen or blood supply to his toes. The blood that's below the trap site starts to get toxic, and once you then take off the trap, that toxic blood then comes into the system and can cause problems with the liver, the kidneys and the heart.
As blood starts to flow back into the man's foot, it's an anxious wait. Pat monitors his condition. It seems the keeper's had a miraculous escape.
It appears at the moment that he was just trapped by his ankle. It's been a slow rollover, so it's not high energy, but he was pinned and his ankle has been quite blue.
Despite being stuck in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales, being transported at 150 miles an hour means the keeper will be in hospital in just 10 minutes. Safely on board, their patient can finally relive his dramatic accident.
Just driving along to get some water and I was looking in back, and obviously I drove off a bit of an edge and I jumped out to stop it coming over, and it just flattened me and landed on me.
Alright, so it started to go, you jumped out
to
try to stop it coming, and the weight's just taken you over and trapped you underneath it.
Yeah.
I think you should have jumped out and just run.
Yeah, I should have done it now, in theory.
The paramedics are used to dealing with the aftermath of accidents at work, but few workers get away with such a serious incident with such relatively minor injuries.
They will definitely look at the injury, probably x-ray it as well. The fact that it was pinned and trapped for, I think, about an hour and a half, we've learnt, is quite a significant amount of time. He had some level of circulation, but it's definitely been compromised. His toenails were blue, and I don't think it's because he put nail polish on them. Very, very lucky. You know, his head could have been crushed, his chest. He could have died if it had rolled over onto him and been pinned for that amount of time as well.
The keeper was soon back at work on the moors. Coming up, the race to save a trapped driver reaches a critical stage.
Right, we're just going to move you shortly, alright?
Flying in this chopper is one of the most glamorous jobs in the ambulance service, but all the guys also do their time on the ground, working every other month in a vehicle with blue lights rather than a rotor.
They're highly skilled, drive thousands of miles a year, and they're behind the wheel of some of the largest vehicles on our roads. Whether it's buses, taxis, tractors or articulated lorries, our roads are home to countless numbers of professional drivers. And that includes the air ambulance paramedics. When she's not cruising at 1,000 feet, paramedic Sammy Wills has to race through the streets of Sheffield to reach her patients.
Back on the blue lights. This guy hasn't seen me. So.
Sammy is highly trained and must have razor-sharp reactions to cope with driving at such high speeds.
This person is still going to turn right. Oh, there you go.
She knows just how dangerous our roads can be.
When you're driving, effectively, you're in control of a missile, and it's how you keep that missile safe. Because it is a weapon that can seriously hurt and it'll even kill people.
But even when Sammy's on duty with the air ambulance, it's not always a £3 million helicopter that transports her to the scene of an accident. It's a foggy morning, and the weather has forced Sammy, paramedic Pat Greekin and Dr Ben Wyatt out of the helicopter and into the air ambulance's rapid response vehicle.
We're going to a car crash at Churchill near Bramhope. The reason we're going by car is because it's still very foggy at the moment. Hello, young lady. Anybody else involved?
No, just the one car.
Hello, how are you doing?
Unlike Pat, Ruth Tetley and Janet Nottingham have been caught out by the treacherous road conditions and they've hit a barrier hard.
I don't quite know where we've hit. Just went straight into that.
They both seem okay at the moment. We're just Sammy and Ben, the doctor's just taking them out.
I'm just going to have a listen to your chest. You're all right.
They both appear to have avoided serious injury, but it's freezing cold and the paramedics know elderly patients can deteriorate quickly. Ruth and Janet were caught out by ice, a mistake many ordinary motorists will make today, but an increasing volume of the air ambulance's work involves professional drivers like themselves, people who use the roads for a living.
When I'm on the helicopter, a lot of the jobs that we go to are car crashes. Often they're professional drivers, that they're out on the road for hours at a time, taxi drivers, lorry drivers, and unfortunately it's their livelihood, so they're going to be more likely to be involved in car accidents. Often when we go for lorry drivers, unfortunately for them, they have large steering wheels. They don't all have to legally wear a seatbelt either. The challenge is when they're braking, they've got all the load behind them, and that's what causes such a massive mechanism of injury.
Few people do more miles every year than delivery drivers. Some will clock up more than 1,000 miles a week. And on a country road in North Yorkshire, a lorry carrying sofas has been in a collision with an unforgiving dry stone wall. Helimed 98 is on the way.
There's been a road traffic accident involving an HGV, and it appears that the driver's been ejected out of the wagon.
But luck can play a part in every accident, and as Helimed 98 arrives at the scene, they find their patient doesn't need them. The driver is putting his feet up in the back of a land ambulance, having escaped with a few grazes, despite being thrown through the windscreen. The paramedics can scarcely believe their eyes.
At the moment, the gentleman that has been ejected appears minor injuries, and the road crew are happy to convey him. His passenger also has minor injuries.
Tony's left to look after the driver's mate who's suffering from whiplash. He too has had a very lucky escape considering the force of the impact. His most serious injury is a graze to his knuckles.
You've got extra pairs of hands now, Tony. I don't know what caused the gentleman to swerve into the dry stone wall, but it certainly made a big impact. Normally, I'd expect to see mass devastation, but he's happy as Larry, doesn't even want to be laid down. We're taking him to hospital precautionary, and they're both travelling by road because at the moment there's no significant injuries that we can see.
Many truck drivers prefer not to wear seatbelts, and many pay the price by suffering more serious injuries than they would otherwise have sustained. Thanks to a soft landing on the grass, this trucker's beaten the odds.
Message from your colleague is, don't forget to take the tachograph out. And he'll see you at work tomorrow. These chaps are exceedingly lucky. If so far all I've seen is a little graze to a knuckle that I wouldn't even put a plaster on.
Both truckers were taken to hospital as a precaution, but test confirms their injuries were, as expected, minor.
9 times out of 10, if you attend an incident where somebody's been ejected through a windscreen, you'd expect some pretty sort of major trauma. So how he's got away with just, which looks like minor injuries, you know, I can't believe how lucky he's been.
It's serious enough when drivers crash with valuable goods in the back. But back in Sheffield, paramedic Sammy knows only too well that when that cargo is a large number of passengers, there's even more pressure.
For the driver, that's often more stressful purely because they've got the responsibility of the passengers. I know how it feels when I'm driving a patient in the back of my ambulance, particularly when it's at speed. I have to be aware of them, and especially brand new babies or babies in incubators. We've got the most precious cargo on board, and you just have to be that bit extra safe.
Passengers on vehicles like buses don't always sit quietly and let the driver concentrate on driving, and that can have disastrous consequences.
When we've been involved in incidents that are bus drivers, minibuses, double-decker buses, not only have we got the driver, who's often at the front of the impact, but there's multiple casualties as well to deal with.
At Air Ambulance headquarters this morning, the adrenaline is pumping.
Now hanging out a bus window unconscious and covered in blood.
An accident involving a school bus is about as serious as emergencies can get. On a coast road that's near the seaside resort of Bridlington, a bus full of children has collided with a van. The crew of HeliMed 99 know emergency services from all over East Yorkshire are being scrambled to the incident. They also know that they're likely to be given the most seriously injured patient.
Looking at this, the location of the incident and the vehicles that are involved, distance to hospital would dictate that you would get as many people there as possible. The fastest transportation for a patient is this aircraft.
The accident's in the middle of the village of Beeford, but pilot Paul Curtis has his eye on a handy landing site right next to the crash.
Probably put you down, guys. Reference the road that comes out the south, left-hand side of it, big open field. That's Grubby Field? Yeah, that looks alright. Left-hand side of the house, I can't see any wires or obstructions.
These guys are experts at sizing up a landing site, looking out for wires and other obstacles that can endanger the chopper.
Lost it now, out of my sight. Yep, lovely. Yep, okay, down.
A local doctor is already on the scene.
The bus driver, two vehicle out here. Gentleman's got quite a nasty facial laceration.
Once again, luck has played a part. Despite the impact, all the children on the bus have escaped unhurt, but their driver is badly injured.
Obviously could have been very much more serious with it being a school bus, but fortunately none of these school children seem to have been injured in the collision.
So what's happened is this vehicle's been coming down the main road, this vehicle's come out of the junction and they've collided like that. There's some force to knock it the distance it's gone. The only sort of casualty of any significance that we've been made aware of is the driver of this vehicle, and that seems to be kind of facial injuries, stroke lacerations. You can see there's a fair amount of blood there. So basically this guy's been packaged already, so we'll get him on board and we'll fly him down to Hull and get him assessed from there.
John Marr was driving 15 kids on his regular route to a local school when the accident happened.
Good. Squeezing fingers.
Yeah, without that bit.
Good.
Now he's on his way to hospital for surgery to his badly injured face.
After an overall exam, the only thing we're concerned by really is this nasty scalp wound that he's got. Situation being, it didn't look like a high-speed road, but with a coach being involved and a van as well, the transference of energy and the level of impact is probably what's brought on this head injury that he's got.
Bus drivers have to accept responsibility for 40 or more lives, often children. John's unlikely to forget his accident, and many bus drivers find it difficult to return to work after a crash. More than 6 months after the accident, John is still undergoing medical treatment for his injury, which has cost him some movement on one side of his face. Sammy knows that all professional drivers have a tough job, but there's one group who she has particular sympathy for.
Taxi drivers drive for a living full-time. They often are at risk just by the nature of the people that they're picking up, particularly Friday, Saturday nights. A bit like us Friday, Saturday nights actually, picking up quite a lot of drunk patients. I think statistically anybody that drives for a living, particularly taxi drivers, they're out on the road that bit longer, so statistically they're more likely to have an accident.
But today, Helimed 99's on its way to help out a cabbie who's been affected by another hazard of the trade, a road accident. Keith Bailey had just dropped off a fare and was on his way home when he was involved in a shunt in West Yorkshire. He's taken a bad blow to the head.
Okay, I'm going in between the lay-by, behind the silver gold car. Yep.
Pilot Ian Mousset decides to touch down on the road. It's been closed by police, and Keith's already been prepared for his flight to hospital by ground crews.
He's using all his limbs. He's using all his left and his right arm.
Keith's not making much sense.
Go on then. Open door.
Paramedic Simon Kavanagh's questions are designed to determine his level of consciousness.
Okay, mate. Do you know what? Can you remember what's happened to you?
Oh, no, it's got.
All right.
These are classic symptoms of concussion, or another, more worrying form of brain injury.
Keith, listen to me, we're going to slide you in. Go on then, let me go.
But at least Keith's now in the right place. Within a few minutes he'll be under observation at Pinderfields Hospital in Wakefield.
Okay, going backwards. Okay, mate. The gentleman he's obviously got some sort of head injury, concussion or possibly what we call cerebral irritation. It's constantly repeating itself. We've got 3 minutes. The crew knew we were coming, so they got the patient package for us, and we just landed and got him straight on and straight off. When everything works like that, it's fantastic.
Luckily, Keith recovered and is now back at work as a cabbie, with a much greater awareness of the dangers of his job. You don't need to tell Sammy that driving for a living is a risky business. But she's one person who won't be making a career change anytime soon.
I consider this as my office. It's got chairs, bed, it's got sat-nav. I've got a portable office. I love my office.
Now, let's catch up on that story we brought you earlier.
In North Yorkshire, a bad car crash has called both air ambulances into action together for the first time. Helimed 99 from Leeds Bradford Airport and Helimed 98 from Sheffield are taking care of 2 injured drivers. Both men are badly in need of hospital treatment after a head-on collision on a country road. Helimed 99 with paramedic Darren Axe and flying Dr Andy Poutney has already lifted off. Their patient has got serious internal injuries.
They're potentially life-threatening injuries, so she needs to be in A&E as soon as possible and have those treated.
But Helimed 98's paramedics Pete Vallance and Lee Davidson are staying at the scene with the driver of the other car. Mark James has been trapped behind the wheel with a broken arm.
This stuff is weird, okay? It'll make you go completely fuzzy.
Now firefighters have cut the roof off and Pete is ready to get him out.
Just keep our head 2 minutes just while we get the board underneath.
Mark is incredibly calm considering he has multiple fractures. The pain-relieving drugs he's been given are helping. All that could change when the team try and move him. 17 miles away, Helimed 99 is already landing at James Cook Hospital in Middlesbrough.
Plenty of room right here. Okay, we're down. We're safe.
It's taken them just 8 minutes to bring the seriously injured driver to the medical care he needs.
How's the pain doing that? 2, 3, lift. It's not always the people that appear to have the most significant visual injuries that become the priorities. The gentleman that we've brought in has got quite a painful abdomen and, you know, closed bleeds to the abdomen, really life-threatening.
As HeliMed 99's patient is taken to the accident and emergency department, back at the scene of the crash, paramedic Pete is guiding Mark out of his wrecked car as gently as possible.
Mark, we're just going to move you shortly, alright, so don't nod your head for me, just try and keep it still.
Mark is in good spirits, but Pete knows he's been stuck for long enough and has to be moved quickly.
Mark, relax, we're going to ease you down, okay? Right, just nice and steady down, chaps.
Mark's in pain, but his leg's broken, and paramedic Lee has to make sure it's splinted properly before he's put onto the helicopter.
2 minutes, Mark, we'll get you covered up then. Just get this leg sorted.
Seems stable at the moment. Looks like he's maybe got a long bone leg fracture and a couple of other injuries. So we'll make our way up and join HeliMed 99 at South Cleveland. Okay, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming.
For all the damage to the car and the time he's been trapped, he's very stable at this time. There's some obvious fractures, but his general condition is pretty good, and there's no major cause for concern at the moment.
It's another short flight. Mark is going to the same hospital as the other driver. Thankfully, it has a big helicopter landing pad, and there are some familiar faces waiting for them. It's another first. Both air ambulances side by side again. Both of their patients getting the urgent hospital care they need.
Once we started getting closer and we got an update we were definitely required, then yeah, the adrenaline starts going. To have 2 aircraft together at a scene like that is very unusual, and it obviously was a bad incident for us both to be required.
From the outset of looking towards the second aircraft, we always envisaged a time when we'd need 2 aircrafts at a job, and this just proves that the plans that were made were going in the right direction.
It's been good to see both machines there, and that's what the people of Yorkshire have donated the money for, to be able to get both aircraft onto the same scene when it's required and take 2 casualties to the nearest specialist hospital.
Good shift, and it's a good way to start the day. It was a good job for us to be involved with.
With their patients at the hospital, it's time for both helicopters to return to base. One to Leeds, the other to Sheffield, ready to do it all again at a moment's notice.